All right, it's been a bit since I updated, as you can tell from the scruff here. I've been working on a project for just under a week, trying to complete a video for a proposal to DARPA, which will put this technology on a marketplace that's accessible by other organizations. And it's also poised to be presented to some individuals in June with some relevance to MDA interests, from what I understand. But yeah, so I'm going back to working on the UV-Sigon stuff, and in the meanwhile, I've also been repairing the seal. Excuse me, on the doer for Parsec. The Indian looked a lot better on that, but I figured I'd update for my own sanity and identification, and kind of walk through this whole setup and the video. Let me see if it's actually audible. Yeah, it took longer than I had hoped.
UAV, aircraft, cruise, and
It would, because of the need to like find relevant footage, and that can be difficult, especially stuff that's usable. I ended up using story blocks, which I was relatively pleased with in the end. One of the other experiences that was a little bit difficult is, as you'll probably be able to notice, is we used a
hypersonic missile tracking systems use active radar illumination, thermal, and
11 Labs TTS voice. Excuse me, maybe I'll make a video speaking about this more specifically. But I went and scouted out possible voice actors on Fiverr. And, a couple guys were like really, really good, relevant type of sound, but they were asking for like $600, $700 or more. Other guys were in like the $100 range, but the voice just wasn't quite what we were looking for in terms of the style. Whatever it was, in the end, I was drafting things using the TTS so I could get all the timings down. And, in addition to just running low on time and, not wanting to spend money, I ended up just using the TTS voice. And it made me think about, it's like, goddamn, I went through the whole process of scouting out and getting samples from them and costing it out. And it's one of those jobs that it's really tough to compete with the convenience of a generated voice, which, if you really spend the time, you can get exactly what you need. It's hard to really detect. If it is detectable, it's not that big of a deal, whatever. But anyway, so the video is essentially
acoustic
just
sensors. This creates critical infrastructure targets,
a bunch
which are
of,
difficult to procure,
stock
hide,
footage
and protect.
going through and talking through the different components of the software package. I won't go through the whole thing, but I try to make it look professional. I tried to make it come off as something that a real prime defense contractor would make.
Cell, other broadcast signals, and even celestial bodies to covertly track objects 50 decibels below the noise floor. Measure component.
It was definitely tough to find footage, that fit things. Sometimes it was really relevant, like
The
here.
ability to identify and track unique signals among indistinguishable hardware, measure component level degradation, damage, and power modes, and provide
There's certain things like the PCB, which is like, it's really easy to find a video of PCB, but how do I talk about awareness metrics without making a custom clip, which is, I just didn't have the time to do. I really like the ending. Maybe I'll show you the ending. But you can go watch the video if you're curious. Here,
to be integrated directly onto proprietary compute platforms, and instead be provided as a small independent compute card compatible with already deployed assets. Because Phoenix Eye seamlessly integrates into our existing missile defense infrastructure, it will address vulnerabilities in our detection of elusive air and space domain objects at key locations today, and later provide national-scale coverage and coordination through the Golden Dome, America's next-generation missile defense shield.
So this was kind of something that we tuned towards the end of the design of the script, when we realized that, well, I guess I realized, and he kind of told me, we could package this as solving a lot of the issues in the interim before you get to like the full-scale Golden Dome. Because you could take existing hardware and implement this software in order to give it the ability to detect hypersonics and things that are obscured and much more low flying, essentially surpassing the the limits of the hardware itself, which is it's that's the cool thing about it is being able to functionally detect and manipulate signals that are below the noise floor effectively surpasses the hardware limitations that were inherent to the design to begin with. And so we can start making arrays that are smaller and more distributed rather than putting a lot of money into these bigger arrays and these larger assets. It really works well for the CubeSat concept of
Wave will ensure taxpayer dollars are better spent on networks of interconnected arrays instead of large, difficult to maintain, and exponentially more expensive heritage sonic threats. Round-the-clock situational awareness, without creating a point of failure in high-power transmitters that reveal their own position. Phoenix Eye can be integrated into the life cycle of defense and reconnaissance data to ensure relevance whenever it is called to action, as opposed to static implementations, which age on the shelf new resources into operational advantages. Phoenix Eye is a software that overcomes hardware limits.
So that blink was something I generated because I wanted a little bit more dynamics when showing the logo, and there was so little of the brand to work with, graphic wise. I think that one actually worked pretty well. It's kind of nice, but I'm not an animator. I could be, but it would take me a week alone just to make something nice like that. Relatively
Inefficiencies
nice.
inherent in traditional RF signal processing techniques. Support Phoenix Eye because America's next-generation missile defense shield requires next-generation software.
So we'll see how things go. I think the technology is there. It's a really good suite of toolkits, and if we align ourselves well with the right organizations, the right companies, and the right groups with the feds, then it could really fulfill a lot of the vulnerabilities that we have now, and kind of sit in that like in between time when we're still kind of building the assets that you need to address the Golden Dome goals. But the life cycle of design, especially for something like spacecraft detection systems or intercept systems, is way longer than the intended timeline. Even though a lot of this stuff has, already been in development, I think the best interim solution is one that you can install into existing hardware that doesn't involve the proprietary interfacing, where you have to convince Harris or Lockheed or somebody to let you mess with their electronics. Like, there's a lot of aspects of the life cycle of defense products that we're trying to curve the proposal around. So, emphasis on like it being an external compute card, something that you take your radio, you plug into that, right? And no matter what the platform is, no matter what kind of protocol it's using, so on, it can function with it, as opposed to trying to go and work and design all of those into the systems, which would end up taking as long as they wanted to end up waiting for the dome itself. So, I don't know, this might come. It was kind of just a side project. Something might come of it in the future. But now it's back to normal life, and in the sense that we still have a lot of tasks to do for just all of the projects. So good news. Excuse me. It is possible that we have a job lined up. I'm not confirming anything because it's still up in the air, but I was asked and got written into a proposal that would set a piece of the pie for me, which could be awesome because it'll set us up for a couple years to stick around here and kind of finish things up, as well as to be frank, it's not going to be something I can talk about, but it's really well aligned with my interests in the kind of tech I want to develop. So, whether or not it's going to be made for my company or for the U.S. government or for a contractor or whatever, it's going to be made, and I appreciate that. So it's a good opportunity that I'm going to really push for. Gonna have to get like a clearance and all that other fun stuff. And it's been a while since I was in defense aligned projects, but I did love my time at APL. Harris was a lot of fun. I've always found it not as deeply, passionately fascinating as I do, some of the planetary science topics, but it's still, in terms of just being a nerd for these kinds of sciences and in communications, reconnaissance, defense, and and whatever else. It still tickles my favor. So we'll see if anything comes of it. In the meantime, I'll just rattle this off so I have notes. We're UVC gone. We're doing the attention visualizations. Obviously, there's so many damn layers and heads that I'm trying to figure out a good way to overlay those on top of the input spectra, so it's kind of really understandable how they're helpful. We are going to start working on a thermal model, Hapke model that Andy shared. He wanted to clean up some of the structure, but I just wanted to learn and understand those better. So potentially with our dissertation, if we get the spectra done, we can include the thermal model analysis with that and kind of wrap a bow on the contextualizing the spectral and thermophysical inconsistencies in the Vennu spectra. We have been putting MPS2 aside for a couple weeks, which is not good because we really need to finish the probe locations and have a meeting with Kurt Lesker to like lock in those designs. I unfortunately can't actually do the designing in their little portal thing because it doesn't enable angled ports. So we'll have to just finish it up in a skeleton model in Inventor and then send that over. But I'll catch up with Kaushik and make sure that we're not like behind. Got to start writing. Dissertation is going to be coming up soon. I want to get some drafts of the UVC Gone paper going. It's time to start writing when I have the free chance. Obviously, a lot of the lab stuff, as you can see, is still incomplete. Even the open build CNC isn't done yet. It's mostly done. I just haven't had the chance to actually finish it. Parsec. We changed the groove on the cap for the doer. Removed it, actually. And now it actually feels a lot better. So unfortunately, we can't actually test if we've addressed the leak because we can't get to the leak range without the doer. But they're going to work on actually building the doer assembly into that new capping plate and hopefully get running Spectre soon. In other news, I've been in a significant amount of pain over the last few weeks. Today, it's actually feeling great. But over the last month, it's been especially bad, and it's been hurting for like 3 or 4 months now. Back pain, and I couldn't really figure out what caused it. I didn't really like lift anything weird or do anything stupid like that, but it just started hurting. And it's something that my whole family, it's definitely genetics, has gotten around my time. Went and got a MRI and other stuff done, and I have a bulged disc, protrusion, whatever the hell you want to call it, that's pushing on my L4 and 5. And that's causing like nerve pain in my leg and stuff. I mean, for a couple days there, while I was working on this video, I could not even sit without it hurting. Today, it feels the best it has in a while, which is nice. But yeah, so in the last like week and a half or however long it's been since our last update, it was the 21st. Yeah, just over a week. Lots of has happened. Trying to think of what I'm missing. I feel like there's something I'm missing. Oh yeah, RF stuff. I haven't really worked on that anymore. I mean, I'm still waiting to hear back from the union. I'm probably going to push on that. Ask Olive what they think about that rule, and then work from there. But I do feel like it's something I can kind of have on the back burner if we're going to be sticking around a little bit longer. Cool. All right. In the next update, we'll probably be focused on the attention viz stuff and maybe talk through a little bit of the thermal model because it's going to take me a while to get my grips on that. Oh, as you can see, I started to try to use Understand, this thing to visualize code bases. I just started it again today, so I don't know. It looks like it'll be helpful for like literally mapping out calls and things like that. So we'll see if I can make like a map of the UVC gun code base to make it easier for our colleagues. Have a good weekend. Cheers.